This is Olga from the Toy Dolls.
This is Ronan, the Toy Dolls biographer. Welcome to the Toy Dolls LPs.
Absurd-Ditties! Absurd-Ditties!
Absurd-Ditties! Absurd-Ditties!
Okay, Olga, nice to see you again. This
You
time
too.
we're back in 1993, and I've got a treat for you. This is Absurd-Ditties, one of your favourite albums. You've often quoted as saying that this was at the time, and maybe even since, certainly up there with the best albums the band has ever recorded.
I think so.
Is it the production, quality of the songs? What's the secret ingredient, do you think?
Well, we didn't know till after, when you write an album and recording it, you don't know how good it is or how bad it is until after it's all completely finished, you've stood back, then you've listened to it again a few weeks after. And that one, I mean, even when we finished recording it, I thought it seemed not bad, but then listening to it, after I got the test pressing and all that kind of thing, a few weeks later, I thought, oh, this is really, really good. Production-wise, mainly, and some really nice songs on it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the playing on it and everything. So, both together, I think, just makes it like a really nice one.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Not perfect, but
Well,
one of the best.
will you ever admit to anything being perfect? I remember seeing a woman on YouTube once doing a really nice acoustic version of Dust the
yeah, I remember
Decorator.
that, yeah.
I wonder how it makes you feel when you see things like that, or when you hear of other bands or individuals doing cover versions of your songs.
Well, it's really flattering, actually. Especially when it's like a unique version like she did, that Asian girl. What was her name again?
Can't remember. She was, I think she was Chinese American, and she did kind of acoustic version.
I mean, she was really nice. Flattered, to be honest. I mean, there's people do Toy Dolls covers around the world, but not as many as would cover like UK sub songs and things like that. Sometimes there might be a bit odd for actually people to play, like Idle Gossip, and that might be a little bit odd for guitar players to play because it's like kind of it's like a unique stand rather than the standard kind of playing.
Yeah.
But it's, I think, yeah, I'm flattered, of course.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. You were also very pleased with the Absurd World tour that accompanied the album, and I wonder if you could run us through what is the relationship between a tour and the album. Which one supports which?
Right. Well, I mean, back in like 1976 and 1977, people used to release an album. Then they used to tour to promote the album.
That's right.
That was it. This is the album tour. We've never done it like that. It's always been the other way around. Right. The tour is the most important thing by far. Live gigs came before any records.
Yep.
So I think that it's nice to have an album out. You don't even have to have an album out now to be on to do a tour, but it's nice to have an album out. So the reason we do the albums is to actually have a new album, something new, and it promotes the tour. So it's the other way around for us.
That's fine. Yeah. Now, Ernie Had a Hernia is one of a small number of songs that name check your brother, Ernie. Now, he's had a variety of roles with the band, from bass player to lighting technician to fan club secretary. How important has he been, would you say, to the band's development?
Well, fundamentally, I mean, he's especially with the fan club thing. He ran the fan club thing for many years.
Seems like such an old concept now, doesn't it? The fan club.
Yeah, and getting your little fan club magazines and that. It's nice. A huge help. And he taught me my first few chords on the guitar. So it's one of the most important things.
Because Ernie had been, he played in bands further back, hadn't he? Rock and roll kind of.
Yeah, he was in
influences.
like the '60s bands, like the Shadows kind of things.
Before you were born, obviously.
Long before I was born.
Yeah. That's good. And while we're on the subject of Ernie, there's Ernie Had a Hernia song. Now,
actually, it was a really bad flu. Actually,
but you're allowed. You see, men are allowed to exaggerate in this. You know about the bad
well,
flu.
I had a bad stomach at the time, so and it was something I thought was a hernia, and he had the flu, so I just combined the two.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. I remember once asking you about the influence of Alvin Stardust's My Cuckoo. You're saying that not many people had spotted that. Is it common to find yourself being influenced by existing melodies or hooks?
Yeah.
Or are you ever nervous about being accused of plagiarism? I wondered.
Yeah. Well, it's obviously going to be. I mean, you write things, and sometimes I've written things. I thought, it's really, really good, that, and I've listened to it a couple of days later, and it's from a famous song. I mean, it's blatant. It's obvious. Exactly.
Subconsciously, it's in the back of your mind.
Yeah, but sometimes you actually write it, and it's in the back of your mind. I mean, there's only a certain number of notes you can do in certain orders. I think like the Cuckoo thing wasn't a deliberate. I mean, anyone that knows that song and they'll play it next to the Ernie Had a Hernia, it sounds like it's a direct copy. You know?
But it wasn't all that intentional.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Whereas Toccata in D minor, now that's an absolute classic in both senses of the word. You've said a few times over the years that you enjoy listening to a whole wide range of musical styles at home, including classical.
Yeah.
How do you decide to tackle this particular piece for the album?
Again, that was my older brother, Ernie. He was playing it in a band many, many years ago. And I was looking around for a cover version. And we actually learned to play this before recording it, which is rare for us. And they copied off a band called Sky, Herbie Flowers and John Williams. So it's actually a copy of their version.
Okay.
So it's a cover of a cover, really.
Right.
And we just sped it up a little bit and missed out some complicated bits which we couldn't play properly. And it turned out really well on the album.
Yeah. And I think the diversity of styles is also illustrated by drooling banjos there. Can you tell us the story behind its inclusion on the album, and also whether it's a big deal to learn a new instrument for the purposes of an album or a tour, you know, bringing a banjo in?
I don't think you have to learn a new instrument if you don't have the time. All you've got to learn is the actual 3 chords that are in that song. Yeah, that are needed. Again, that dueling banjos thing was a last minute thing. That wasn't a plan. We did do it live before then, but it was because there wasn't enough songs written on. I mean, Toccata was definitely planned to be on that album. Dueling banjos wasn't, a drooling banjos. So
yeah, that's right.
But I don't think it's necessary to actually play an instrument. I mean, if there's going to be one little bit where there's a violin and with a couple of squeaks, I can't spend like 6 months to learn the violin.
Just get Duncan to do it.
Exactly, get Duncan to do it.
Yeah, that's fine. We're back to Coronation Street for a bit with Alec's Gone, named after or I suppose based on the character Alec Gilroy. What was it about Alec that you liked? You did talk to me a lot about how fond you were of this character.
Yeah.
And what caused you to write the song, and also Alec's back.
I think Alec was just like larger than life, a bit like Fred Elliott kind of thing from the Coronation Street. And it's all overacted on these soap operas. You know, it's not like proper acting like a film. You know, it's TV soap opera. I thought it was very, very humorous as well in his expressions and everything. And he just, the character that he portrayed seemed to fit his person and what he looked like and everything perfectly.
Yeah, it just fitted well.
Yeah.
We've got 2 questions that come in from fans from Facebook here. The first one is, ever since Absurd-Ditties, when you're recording your album, do you use that as a reference point? Do you always strive for that sound, or do you go for new sounds that you like at the time of recording subsequently?
Well,
is it like a benchmark or?
Yeah, well, I always strive to try and get the sound of Absurd-Ditties since Absurd-Ditties, to be honest. I'm not sure what I thought of before then, but we always put that up, like when we're doing the mixing with the Absurd-Ditties album will be up as a reference. Of course, when things are recorded with different amplifiers and different musicians at different times in different studios and different times of the year, and you know, different playroom or anything, it's going to be different. You're never going to be able to get exactly the same.
Yeah.
But that one, we put it up as a reference all the time, that album.
That's right, yeah. There's another question that's come in, and this is to do with the drums on Absurd-Ditties. And the correspondent first of all mentions they're very tight, extremely tight drums. Are they all human, or are there any machines in, we wondered?
That's played, they're humanly played, and there's some samples doubling up underneath some of the drums.
Yeah.
But they're all played by, you know.
It's interesting to know. Yeah. Now, there aren't many songs from this album that you routinely play live. Alec's Gone and Toccata are 2 that have cropped up fairly frequently live. Yeah. Is that a surprise to you, given how happy you are with the album?
Not really, because again, lots of those songs are written and recorded before actually seeing if we can actually play them. You know, like Duncan's always wanting to play Melancholy Margaret, which is a nice song, but I've tried to play it at home and stand up and jump around. It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
Whereas
so be practical as well as
emotional. Yeah, I think. But I mean, we did play My Wife's a Psychopath in Holland once live, and it was dreadful. Even though it's probably one of the best songs on that album. Yeah, that's why more recently I've been thinking of trying to write songs that you can actually play and record and do live.
Yeah. Last question, Olga. I want to ask about your views on the UK music press.
Uh-huh.
So Absurd-Ditties has been praised around the world, but I know you've always been reluctant to pay much attention to what the music and the mainstream actual press say in the UK. What's the reason behind this uneasy kind of relationship you have with the press?
Well, you know, I remember doing a gig with the Angelic Upstarts in... no, rephrase that. I remember doing a gig with Eraserhead, this punk band in London, at the 100 Club, 1980 or something. And we happened to play really, really well, right? And the Eraserhead were all right. They were all right, right? And the reviews that were in the press, it said that they were absolutely fantastic and we were dreadful, right? So I thought, well, you know, it wasn't like that. But then a few months after that, we supported the Angelic Upstarts at the Marquee, the original Marquee, and we were dreadful. And the Angelic Upstarts were absolutely fantastic. And the reviews were the opposite. It says that they were rubbish and that we were absolutely fantastic. I thought, I can't believe this music press in England, you know, like, you know, whether it's for films or bands. But it just seems that they're not as cynical abroad, anywhere abroad. It seemed like that. I remember reading one review of Absurd-Ditties. I think it was the Metal Hammer in England, and it was dreadful. But obviously, it's in England, isn't it? So they're going to write, it's dreadful. And then I was sitting in the van touring Holland, and the merchandiser guy says, "Have you seen this review in the Metal Hammer?" Mind you, this was the Dutch version, right? It was a different thing. And it had 5 stars for Absurd-Ditties, because it was in Holland, you know. No mention of an Ellie the Elephant thing or the Baron Knights or anything like that, like the English one, you know, shooting you down immediately. But, you know, I just can't trust reviewers, really.
Yeah. It's probably healthier at times just to step back and just get on with your own stuff in your own way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you go and play some... I remember playing in... we played in France, a big, huge festival, Hellfest, and the reviews were fantastic. Just recently, fantastic reviews from France and Spain and all that kind of thing. And there was a couple of English reviews, and they were dreadful. So there you go.
Okay, Olga, thanks very much for sharing your thoughts on Absurd-Ditties.
Thanks, Ronan.
Absurd-Ditties! Absurd-Ditties!
Absurd-Ditties, Absurd-Ditties.